Hi everybody, we're just going to do a quick video on how to run an independent samples t-test in SPSS. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. I've pulled up SPSS and so now I need to import a file. Remember, there's a video that tells you how to import Excel files and later a video on how to import SPSS save files. So I'm going to click open. I'm going to find my data for this, which is in a save file, and click open, and then that's going to take me right to my data. Now remember, a really good habit is to always click on your variable view first. That way you can check if your variables have imported correctly. Now you're going to have less importation issues when you import from SPSS, but it is still possible. So first I'm checking to make sure there aren't any empty cells here that say like VAR was 0001, that's some kind of importation issue, right? I also need to make sure that the measurement type is correct. So class, which is going to be our groups, is nominal, that's correct, and the unit 2 exam here is scale, that is also correct. This data here is from a previous class. This is not y'all's class, this is many years ago and it's been anonymized, and it is comparing a synchronous and an asynchronous class by their Unit 2 exam grades. And that is why it would be an independent t-test, because we have two groups that are separate and independent from each other. So to run this analysis, we go up to Analyze and we click Compare Means, and then we can click Independent Sample t-test. Remember, there's not a thing under Analyze, there's not an option under Analyze for just t-test. Instead, all of your t-tests, one sample t-test, independent samples t-test, and paired samples t-test are all under the Compare Means menu, including also the one-way ANOVAs. So I'm going to click Independent Samples t-test. And then this is our normal dialog box. All of the possible variables that can be moved over are on the left, and we have to put them to the correct areas on the right. We have two areas. One area is called test variable, and the other one's called grouping variable. The grouping variable is going to be the variable you're using to make groups. And so for this, it's class. So I'm going to select class and I'm going to click the arrow, and that's going to move it over into the grouping variable box. Notice how it says class and then question marks. So we also have to click define groups. Now, this will allow us to say, hey, group 1 is any value that is 1, and group 2 is any value that is 2. For this class, because this is an introduction class, group 1 will always be 1, group 2 will always be 2, group 3 would always be 3, and so on. But in the real world, you may have different notations that tell the researcher, hey, this is group 1 versus group 2, and you would just change the 1s and the 2s to whatever that is. So this is correct. I'm going to click continue, and now instead of having question marks, it says class 1, 2. The other box there says test variable. That's going to be what you're testing. So it's going to be your dependent or your outcome variable. And that for this example is the Unit 2 exam grades. So I'm going to click that, click the arrow, and it moves it over into the correct box. For this one, we don't need to click options to change anything, but I do need to make sure I click this homogeneity of variance test. It is not a default box and it has to be selected, because what you'll learn in the module about independent t-test is how to read that output, and you need that result there to make sense of things, okay? So I've got my dependent variable in the test variable box, I have my independent variable in the grouping variable box, and I've changed it from question marks to the actual numbers, and both the homogeneity of variance test box and the estimate effect size boxes are both now checked. So I can click OK. And then that's going to open our new window, which is going to have our output. You can see that the first box of output is just the statistics. So it says how many people are in each group, the average and standard deviation for each group, and the standard area of the mean for each group. Then we have an area that is just the independent samples t-test output. There are two lines of output here, whether or not your variances are equivalent or not. Remember, there's a trick to how we know which line to read, and the answer is in the homogeneity of variance test box. So once you go to the module that's on independent t-test, it will tell you how to use the information that's in the homogeneity of variance test box to tell you which of those 2 lines of output that you would read. And then at the bottom is also our effect sizes. And that's it. That's all the steps that you need to go from data to output in an independent samples t-test. Now, how to interpret that output is a little harder. So again, make sure you go back to the content and the PowerPoints that are in the module for independent samples t-test, and that will tell you how to interpret those results. Okay? See you online.